So I'm going to repeat myself. So the theme for today's Torah study would be 10 plagues in lieu of upcoming Passover, and the hardening of Pharaoh's heart with each plague, right? Took 10. I'm sure we already talked about it, but I prepared a lot of material. I'm sure we would not be able to go through everything today, but I will ask Jen to email it to you because I found some interesting commentaries on that. So let me share the screen now. And oh, okay. As you can see, it's a very long, very long source sheet this time I put together. So 10 plagues, hardening the heart. And we're going to go, so first I have like several verses on each plague and then some of the commentaries. So who wants to read all the Exodus verses 3 through 5?
I can if you want. But I will harden Pharaoh's heart that I may multiply my signs and marvels in the land of Egypt.
So let me stop you there. Even before we read about the plagues, there is already the set expectation, right? That the God says that I will harden his heart. Okay, keep going.
When Pharaoh does not heed you, I will lay my hand upon Egypt and deliver my ranks, my people, the Israelites, from the land of Egypt with extraordinary chastisements.
Mm-hmm.
Reading that again. Okay. And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord when I stretch out my hand over Egypt and bring out the Israelites from their midst.
Yep. Okay. So Rashi on this, maybe Marcia?
Since he has wickedly resisted me, and it is manifest to me that the heathen nations find no spiritual satisfaction in setting their whole heart to return to me penitentially, it is better that his heart should be hardened in order that my signs may be multiplied against him, so that ye may recognize my divine power. What a sentence. Such indeed is the method of the Holy One, blessed be he. He brings punishment upon the nations so that Israel may hear of it and fear him. As it is said, I have cut off nations, their corners are desolate, etc. I said, surely thou wilt fear me, thou wilt receive correction. Nevertheless, in the case of the first 5 plagues, it is not stated, excuse me, the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, but Pharaoh's heart was hardened.
Right. So the Lord hardened, so it's not stated the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, but Pharaoh's heart was hardened.
I was the impression that the first 5 plagues, Pharaoh hardened his own heart, and the second 5 plagues, he really didn't have a choice. He kind of set himself up on the first 5 on his own decision, and by the last 5, it was God that hardened Pharaoh's heart.
Possible?
Is that correct?
Yeah. Masha, you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you.
By the way, I did get my second vaccine yesterday, and just so far, so good.
Oh, good.
Oh, great.
Just a little bit sore, but not like painful arm, just a bit. So I guess if I didn't get the flu-like symptoms, I'll be okay, right?
Well,
Yeah.
mine came 24 hours later.
Oh, 24 hours later, really?
Mine
It
did.
might be. I had none. It would,
I was about 12 hours later, but nothing serious.
Yeah,
I
mine
see.
wasn't bad.
I see. So there's still a chance. All right,
Yeah.
let's read now Ibn Ezra's on the same.
I'll
Maybe
read.
Eileen? Okay, I was going to say Arlene.
See, great minds think alike.
Yes.
One can ask, if Hashem hardened his heart, what was his sin? The answer is that Hashem gave wisdom to man and placed insight into his heart to be able to draw additional power to increase good or to detract from his evil, as I will explain later. But the reason for the hardening of his heart is to increase my miracles. Rabbi Yeshua states the reason was to allow him to suffer the plagues, and he speaks incorrectly.
All right, so a couple of things to unfold here, right? What would be the first one? What is Ibn Ezra saying in the first part?
That if God hardened his heart, he really didn't do anything sinful because he did what God wanted.
Right. So God did it on purpose, but at the same time, the first part, it says, God gave wisdom to man and placed insight into his heart to be able to draw additional power to increase good. So what does that mean? Even though God sort of intended Pharaoh to harden his heart, but at the same time, what does it Ezra say?
But isn't that saying that when God decides something, man can still go against it and change it?
Exactly. So in other words, the Pharaoh could still probably with the power of his striving for good, and the belief that there is a good inclination will prevail over the evil inclination. So there is still a slight, like a window for Pharaoh was rather to not harden his heart. But then at the same time, Ibn Ezra says, but the reason for hardening of his heart is to increase my miracles. So in other words, God's intention was to bring on all these miracles so that we continue to speak of them over and over and over, right?
Kind of like the arsonist who creates a fire so that he could be the hero to put it out.
Interesting comparison.
But from
Or it makes us understand that there are very many things that go on and that we should know about these things. And if he didn't give them to Pharaoh, we might not be aware of them.
Right.
But from a big picture point of view, I mean, Pharaoh was, well, let's say not the nicest guy in the world. He enslaved the Israelites and he made sure they stayed enslaved. And that had, that's above and beyond his reaction to the plagues and hardening his heart. Before there were any plagues, the Israelites were slaves. Due to
Right.
Pharaoh.
But they were slaves before this Pharaoh, right?
No.
Well,
No?
400 years. I don't know. Is that still the same Pharaoh?
No, I mean, it was a gradual enslavement, yes. But this particular Pharaoh was the one who ordered the killing of the male child.
Yeah.
And this was the Pharaoh at the beginning of Exodus who there was a new Pharaoh who did not know Joseph. This is
Right.
the Pharaoh. And he's
Right.
wise with them and enslave them.
Even before this Pharaoh, weren't the Israelites enslaved? Maybe didn't, the killing of the first child hadn't been ordered, but weren't the Israelites already slaves?
No, Dan is right in terms of it does start with the phrase that a new Pharaoh came to power who didn't know Joseph, meaning that he didn't give slack to Jewish people.
But
And the previous Pharaoh was benevolent in that he gave them a land of Goshen. This was as Jacob and his family when they came in as a matter of Joseph.
Right.
Them in.
But wait, how many pharaohs were there? Because we're talking hundreds of years.
Yeah.
So
Yes, so that was removed, but it does say that with this Pharaoh, who didn't know Joseph, that the circumstances had drastically changed for Israelites.
I think they were in the land of Egypt for 400 years or something
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
But was the slavery really just a fraction of that 400 years?
Well,
Either way, you
Um,
have more than two
well, they were
people.
made to
in-
work. And were
So
they,
again, if even if it was a gradual um, a gradual worsening of the conditions, it was with this particular pharaoh that the Israelites were completely reduced to the status of slaves. Although they still got to keep that Goshen place, because every time in this section, actually in both chapters, we read throughout the 10 plagues that Pharaoh says, fine, go to the land of Goshen. And when Aaron and Moses ask to worship God and to sacrifice, so every time Pharaoh says, fine, go to your land of Goshen and sacrifice.
But I'm a little confused, and I don't remember all the names in play. So Moses' adopted mother, the woman who pulled him out of the river, I forget.
Right, Pharaoh's daughter. Mhm.
Right, Pharaoh's daughter. But okay, so she was Pharaoh's daughter, and under that Pharaoh, which was not the Pharaoh who brought on the plagues, weren't the Israelites still slaves? Not as
Wait. No, that was that Pharaoh.
That was that same Pharaoh.
That's the same Pharaoh.
wait, say it again.
It's the same Pharaoh.
The reason that
That's the father of Moses' adopted mother.
Right, but
That's the Pharaoh.
didn't he die and Ramesses take over becoming the Pharaoh, and the woman that Moses loved had to marry the person who was the new Pharaoh, who was supposed to have been Moses until they discovered he was really an Israelite? Have I got that wrong?
No, I think you may be referring to some kind of midrash, but no, it's the same Pharaoh.
it's the same Pharaoh because that the reason that Moses was pulled from the water was to save him because there was an order already out to kill all the males.
Right. But
And
then
that was done by Pharaoh's by the Pharaoh whose daughter, saved him.
right. Okay, I guess what I'm thinking of is then the next Pharaoh who's ordered to kill all the firstborn.
No, it's the same Pharaoh.
Same Pharaoh. Same Pharaoh. That's otherwise she would not have pulled
Yeah.
Pharaoh. She would not have pulled Moses out of the water.
Right, but afterwards, go many years when Moses is now an adult. Didn't Pharaoh do something about killing all the firstborn or something? And the God's plague was that what the Pharaoh said to happen to the people of Israelite would then happen to the people of Egypt, so that it was the
No,
Egyptian.
Arlene, it's still the same Pharaoh.
no,
Same Pharaoh.
Same Pharaoh.
Okay.
Let's read some more. I have several on this. Okay, Midrash Tanhuma. Ellen?
the Holy One, blessed be he, declared, Moses, you shall speak, and I will bring the plague. Moreover, he stated, in this world, I will obtain retribution from the Egyptians through the 10 plagues, but in the future, I will obtain retribution for you from Gog and Magog, as it is said, and I will plead against him with pestilence and with blood. I will cause to rain upon him, upon his bands, and upon the many people that are with him, an overflowing shower. Shall I go on?
So let me just know. So Gog and Magog, they appear in the Old Testament. Actually, they also appear in the Bible, in the New Testament and Quran. Gog is an individual, and Magog is his land. So in Genesis, Magog is a man, but no Gog is mentioned. And centuries later, Jewish tradition changed Ezekiel's Gog from Magog. So which is the form in which they appear in actually New Testament.
Who are they?
Isn't it all apocalyptic times at the end
Yeah.
of times?
The legend that has to do with the Gog and Magog, by the time of Roman period, that gates of Alexander were erected by Alexander the Great to repel the tribe. A Romanized Jewish historian Josephus knew them as a nation descended from Magog, the Japhetite, as in Genesis, and explained them to be Scythians in the hands of early, so they're just a book, like Don said, apocalyptical figure.
Yeah, my understanding is that they became kind of metaphorical, and especially I think that's why it's in the New Testament about, end times and, future evil powers taking over the world to the point where Messiah.
Right, the prophesied invader of Israel and the land from which he comes, respectively.
Yeah.
Okay, so what does Midrash Tanhuma tell us about the hardening? So Moses, you shall speak, and I will bring the plague. I will obtain retribution from the Egyptians through the 10 plagues. But in the future, I will obtain retribution from you, from Gog and Magog. So in other words, anyone who threatens the Jews or the land of Israel, in the case of Gog, right? Mm-hmm. God will retribute for that. So the plagues are the retribution also for the suffering of the Jewish people in the land of Egypt. And that's what it means.
And I think to what Arlene was saying earlier about the killing of the firstborn, 10th plague, being retribution here for the ordering of killing the males of the Israelites years earlier.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm. So according to Midrash Tanhuma, it's all about the retribution. That's why 10, and that's why the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, right?
Mm-hmm. It sounds like though that in this one, that after that, if anybody puts problems with the Jews, that there's other ways that God will take care of them. Is that what he's saying in that last piece?
Yes. Yep.
So
okay, let's move. Sorry, go ahead.
So he will take care of all of the land of Israel right now. When Iran is trying to bomb, or whoever's trying to bomb.
Well, no one is trying to bomb yet. They're only trying to get the bomb ready.
I'm ready. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you go back to Scud missiles.
Missiles, yes. I mean, not atomic bomb, but yes, missiles, yes.
Missiles, and that the Lord is watching over. There's ways to deal with that. I don't know. It's interesting.
For example, the letter, Malinowski did sign the letter for providing unconditional aid to Israel's defense. So at least that, I just got notification yesterday. So we lobbied for this particular one.
Good. Yay.
Okay, so he did sign that letter. So that's good. He has he didn't sign the ICC letter. ICC letter is the letter that urged America to, urge the government to stand with Israel and against Israel being sued in this International Criminal Court. You've heard of International Criminal Court?
Yeah.
So originally it was formed to bring justice to the leaders of countries in Africa that committed genocide. And then eventually it started, looking at other countries where genocide was committed, but they're now looking at Israel. They want to sue Israel for supposedly the the genocide, the criminal acts against Palestinians during the Gaza war. That's what the ICC is trying to do. I mean, if they succeed, I don't think so, but if they succeed, that means that no diplomats or the head of the government will be allowed to travel to other countries, from what I understand. So anyway, I lobbied for with Malinowski last year to sign this letter. He did not sign that letter, just as an FYI.
Did he give a reason? I know you said something about phraseology when you were talking about it.
Yeah, so you know, he is, and claims that he's a fighter for the human rights. Like he always is very conscious of the human rights and so forth. So even though he is much more supportive of Israel than he was before he traveled to Israel, and that is pretty clear. But yet, you know, I think that he believes that there were some transgressions that Israel did during the Gaza war. So that's why he didn't sign.
Yeah, no telling. Well, thank you for doing all that you do. I signed the letters as well, both the ICC
I appreciate
one and the other one.
I appreciate it. Yeah, no, it's important. Okay, next one. Targum Jonathan in Exodus 7:3. A very short one. Who wants to read that one?
But I will harden the disposition of Pharaoh's heart to multiply my signs and my wonders in the land of Mitzrayim.
So again, we already heard that theme as well, right? That God says that God will harden Pharaoh's heart. So it doesn't come from Pharaoh, but rather from God to multiply the wonders, again, to increase the awe of God by showing the Egyptians what God can do, right?
Mhm.
It almost sounds like a negative way of proving God's power.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, how about sending? I'm going to skip that one because it's long, and you can read on your own when I send it. Yeah, like with Akedat Yitzhak, when God wants Abraham to prove his faith and ask him to sacrifice his son. I mean, that's quite a negative also, right? I mean,
Yeah.
good thing that the outcome was a happy end, but at the same time, this is quite a negative way of proving faith, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, the only thing is the shame of it is that obviously the Egyptians as a group of people, you know, I'm not sure was it fair? I don't look at it that way for them to be punished. The Pharaoh, yes, because he's the one that enslaved the Israelites, but the average Egyptian, how much did they, we don't know, you know.
It's called collateral damage in any act of war. You know, we can always argue, and so same with Gaza, right? I mean, Israel didn't have a choice. I mean, if they bomb from, if they send missiles from schools and hospitals, and then Israel has to defend itself, there's collateral damage. In the case of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, there was a huge collateral damage, right?
But Israel, to avoid collateral damage as much as possible, sends out flyers to the citizens and saying, we are intending to take reaction.
Yeah, but I mean, you can argue that the population, I mean, the area is so densely populated. And where are they going to go? I mean, it's really hard to hide, even though Israel does send those flyers. There's still going to be collateral damage.
Right, but no other nation in the world would do that.
It's the last 5 plagues supposedly that the Pharaoh doesn't have a choice in terms of hardening of his heart, and it's God who just has those things happen. So again, I don't know, just put it out there. Was it really necessary to have the 10 plagues, that many? Would he have been able to accomplish getting Pharaoh to relent and to let the Israelites go with less than 10?
No.
Was it necessary? I don't know. I mean, we
don't
shall
know.
ask God.
Just
We
putting
shall
it
ask
out
God.
there.
We shall ask God. Marsha
Yeah.
wanted to say something.
Yeah.
Marsha wanted to say something.
In reaction to what Judy had said before about Pharaoh being the one to be punished, not the general population, I see it so clearly today. You get leaders who profess something and they somehow get a good percentage of the population to believe it, even with, southern
Right.
of slavery.
Mhm.
That you almost can't take one away from the other. The population might be not meaning to do this consciously,
Right.
but they have been brainwashed, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I don't know
Yeah,
if you can really take one away from the other.
exactly. And we've seen it throughout the history, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Holocaust, how many people supported that? I mean, in Poland, in Ukraine, many were in Lithuania, Latvia, many were just very happy to support getting rid of Jews. So
And there was the mixed multitude that did exit Egypt that were sympathetic to the Israelites. They saw something positive. So
right.
there was an escape plan as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's what
So
when the plagues start.
I want to move on to the plagues because I did pack this spreadsheet with so much, and again you'll get that, so you'll be able to read on your own. Okay, so Exodus 7, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22. Who wants to read those?
You gotta stay still. I'll read. You want to start at 7:15?
7:15, yes.
Go to Pharaoh in the morning as he is coming out to the water, and station yourself before him at the edge of the Nile, taking with you the rod that turned into a snake. Continue.
Yeah, you'll do all the Exodus.
And say to him, the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, sent me to you to say, let my people go, that they may worship me in the wilderness. But you have paid no heed until now.
Sorry, moving. Okay.
Thus says the Lord, by this you shall know that I am the Lord. See, I shall strike the water in the Nile with the rod that is in my hand, and it will be turned into blood. And the fish in the Nile will die. The Nile will stink so that the Egyptians will find it impossible to drink the water of the Nile. And the Lord said to Moses, say to Aaron, take your rod and hold it out. Take your rod and hold out your arm over the waters of Egypt, its rivers, the canals, its ponds, all its bodies of water, that they may turn to blood. There shall be blood throughout the land of Egypt, even in vessels of wood and stone. Moses and
Here. Okay, go ahead.
Moses and Aaron did just as the Lord commanded. He lifted up the rod and struck the water in the Nile in the sight of the Pharaoh and his courtiers, and all the water in the Nile was turned into blood, and the fish in the Nile died. The Nile stank so that the Egyptians could not drink water from the Nile, and there was blood throughout the land of Egypt. But when the Egyptians' magicians did the same with their spells, Pharaoh's heart stiffened, and he did not heed them, as the Lord had spoken.
All right, so in this example, we see that it doesn't say that God hardened Pharaoh's heart, but rather that Pharaoh's heart had hardened. Why? Stiffened, because he saw that his magicians were able to do the same. So he's like, no big deal, right? It's not God's, God is not so special. My magicians can do that too. And we'll see that for next couple of plagues, but then the magicians cannot repeat the same miracle. So let's see Rashi on Exodus. Who wants to read Rashi?
Read. And Pharaoh's heart was hardened, so that he said, "You are doing this by witchcraft. You're bringing straw to Ephraim, a city that is full of straw. Thus you bring sorcery to Egypt, a land that is full of sorcery."
So what does Rashi say here?
This is nothing special.
That's right.
You know, whatever's happening, lots of people can do it.
Yeah, it's like another act of it's like another act of sorcery, right?
Yeah, just like the rod turning into a snake.
Right,
Same thing.
right. And so you know, no big deal. Nothing really too amazing about that. So that's pretty clear. Okay, second plague.
Or, you know, with the scheme of things,
Exodus 7:25 through 29. Who wants to read all those?
I'll read it.
Okay.
25?
Yes.
Thanks. When 7 days had passed after the Lord struck the Nile, the Lord said to Moses, "Go to Pharaoh and say to him, 'Thus saith the Lord, let my people go, that they may worship me.' If you refuse to let them go, then I will plague your whole country with frogs.
Mm-hmm.
The Nile shall swarm with frogs, and they shall come up and enter your palace, your bedchambers, and your bed, the houses of your courtiers and your people, and your ovens and your kneading bowls."
Frogs here, frogs there, frogs were jumping everywhere. Okay. Keep going.
The frogs shall come up upon you and your people and all your courtiers. And the Lord said to Moses, "Say to Aaron, hold out your arm with the rod over the rivers, the canal, and the ponds, and bring up the frogs on the land of Egypt." And Aaron held out his arm over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up and covered the land of Egypt. But the magicians did the same with their spells, and they brought frogs upon the land of Egypt. When the Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and said, plead with the Lord to remove the frogs from me and my people, and I will let the people go to the sacrifice of the Lord. And then, but then Pharaoh saw that there was relief, and he became stubborn and would not heed them, as the Lord had spoken.
Oh, it was given. Then Moses and Pharaoh, so they did that. So even though magicians were able to bring on the frogs, but they weren't able to remove the frogs, right?
Yeah.
And so Pharaoh this time pleaded with Moses and Aaron to remove the frogs. Okay, and Rashi again. Etta, since you joined, do you want to read Rashi's explanation?
Thank you. He allowed his heart to be hardened. The word
Ha-chaved, meaning hard. So kaved means heavy or hard. Okay. So that word ha-chaved, sorry, hardened, which means hardened.
Okay, the word
hardened
expresses doing something. The Hebrew infinitive, but having a past meaning, just as Genesis 12:9 going.
and you don't need to read. Don't read the Hebrew words. It's fine. They're translated.
So 2 Kings 3:24 and smiting Moab, 1 Samuel 22:13, and inquiring of God for him, smiting and wounding.
Right. So in other words, the Rashi is just commenting on that particular word, hachbed. So in the verse 8:11, V'yara Faro ki hayta harvacha v'hachbed et libo. So it doesn't say God, but in the parentheses, God. V'hachbed et libo. So God actually hardened his heart. V'lo shama alehem kasher diber Adonai. So in this case, in the frog case, actually it says that God hardened his heart.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
So is this Pharaoh the same Pharaoh that is Moses's grandfather?
Yes. That's the same Pharaoh.
Do you want me to continue?
Somebody Exodus, all the Exoduses 12 through 15.
But just going back to the second
Uh-huh.
plague, it said, Pharaoh's heart may have been hardened, but Pharaoh relented a little bit. Says, "Please get rid of the frogs, and I will let you go to your land to sacrifice."
Yeah, but then when they were already relieved from that, he said,
Yeah.
it says that his heart was hardened. It doesn't say he hardened his heart, but it says his heart was hardened.
But I just found it interesting. There's a little give and take there.
Right, but the question is, did he ever really plan to let them go? Or was it just, a lie to get rid of the frogs?
Probably.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, somebody, Exodus.
Okay, then the Lord said to Moses, say to Aaron, hold out your rod and strike the dust of the earth, and it shall turn to lice throughout the land of Egypt. And they did so. Aaron held out his arm with the rod and struck the dust of the earth, and vermin came upon man and beast. All the dust of the earth turned to lice throughout the land of Egypt. The magicians did the like with their spells to produce lice, but they could not. The vermin remained upon man and beast.
One more.
Oh, and the magician said to Pharaoh, this is the finger of God. But Pharaoh's heart stiffened, and he would not heed them, as the Lord had spoken.
So like I said, after the second plagues, magicians already gave up. They're like, we can't, that's it. Can't repeat that one. So only the water and the frogs, but they could not repeat the lice. Therefore, it's like, they're now convinced, though the magicians are convinced that this is God's doing. But nevertheless, Pharaoh still didn't believe them, right? And so in this case, his heart stiffened. So it's not God that stiffened his heart, but the Pharaoh did it himself. Le Pharaoh, V'yachazek le Pharaoh. That's what it says in the Hebrew. In other words, his heart, so literally his heart had hardened. It doesn't, so it's not like in the previous where it says he hardened his heart, but it says the heart was hardened.
It's already hardened. Okay.
So this is just Pharaoh, right, without God's contribution. And Rasha says this plague is not caused by sorcery, it is of the omnipresent God, because the magicians say this is the finger of God. So clearly his Pharaoh's magicians already beginning to believe, and yet Pharaoh doesn't. And Ibn Ezra on Exodus, if someone wants to read.
Since they saw that they did like Aaron's act with the snake and with the plagues of blood and frogs, but they could not do now like what Aaron did. They said to Pharaoh, this plague did not come on the account of Israel, that you should send them away. Rather, it is a plague of God, according to the system of the stars upon the constellation of Egypt. Moreover, since Moses had given word to Pharaoh about the plague of the Nile before it occurred, as well as the plague of the frogs, but they did not mention the plague of lice beforehand. So It was a surprise. And I
Yeah.
guess what magician in his right mind would want to bring a plague of lice? It's actually a great magic show to have. Not that blood and
Good
frogs
point,
are
good
good
point.
either, but lice is, they're getting worse.
Much more uncomfortable.
Yeah, not going to hire that one for my kid's party.
Yeah, we've survived one time, but my kids had it once, but I can totally relate. I think everybody gone through it at least once, right?
Yep.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. I did though in 3 days. I got rid of them in 3 days.
Really?
I was I took 2 days off, turned the house upside down, had a professional come and do the girls and myself, and then all right, I'll skip the rest. Okay, Rambam wrote a lot on that. We're gonna skip Rambam. You'll read it at your own leisure. Next plague. That's a lot. That's a lot of commentaries. Okay, Exodus 17 through 28. And by the way, you can use that, when you receive it, you can use it for your Haggadah when you do the plagues. I don't know if your families will appreciate such a long list of plagues, but I'm sure you can use a couple. Another thing I wanted to say, so I started reading Sharansky book, Never Alone. I hope that you're all going to order it. He, in the introduction, he talks about his bar mitzvah in Israel that he decided to do at age 65.
Wow.
And once he was in Israel. And when he asked the rabbi what would be the Torah portion that falls on his Hebrew birthday, it turned out that it was Parashat Bo, the Exodus from Egypt, which is like amazingly coincidental, right? It's crazy and eerie, but it was so much more special for him to chant this portion and to write a speech on that. So he talks about it in his book. It's quite unique. Okay, this will be our last play because I also want to show you, of course, finish with an episode from The Jews Are Coming.
Yay.
So, yay. So let's read through that fourth plague. Who wants to read?
If you do not let my people go, I will let loose swarms of insects against you and your courtiers and your people and your houses. The houses of the Egyptians and the very ground they stand on shall be filled with swarms of insects. But on that day, I shall set apart the region of Goshen where my people dwell, so that no swarms of insects shall be there, that you may know that I, the Lord, am in the midst of the land. Right. So this is actually the first plague that God says that I will separate the where Israelites dwell. And then we continue with other plagues. We will see that God tries to spare the parts where Israelites live, so that this plagues don't affect them, right? And we already mentioned the land of Goshen, okay? And the Lord did so. Heavy swarms of insects invaded Pharaoh's palace and the houses of his courtiers throughout the country of Egypt. The land was ruined because of the swarms of insects. Then Pharaoh summoned Moses and Aaron and said, "Go and sacrifice to your God within the land." So Moses left Pharaoh's presence and pleaded with the Lord. And the Lord did as Moses asked. He removed the swarms of insects from Pharaoh, from his courtiers, and from his people. Not one remained. But Pharaoh became stubborn this time also and would not let the people go. The Hebrew, though, Vayachbed Pharaoh, and in this case, he became hardened. So that doesn't say his heart, but rather Vayachbed Pharaoh. He removed, like,
he remained strong. He was still strong and hardened, but not in his heart. It doesn't say heart.
Rabbi,
Okay.
is there any differentiation here? It says stubborn, and that word hasn't been used before. It was hardened, but I guess obviously it's the same consequence, or
it's the same.
result.
It's the same word. It's just, I think, for the purpose of more, I don't know, better flow of the text. But the word is the same, except it doesn't say regarding the heart. It says just Pharaoh. So Vayachbed Pharaoh. I mean, which you can translate that he became hardened. That he became stubborn. So it's possible to translate it that way in this connotation, but it literally means he hardened, not his heart.
It's almost, when you think of stubborn, a person doesn't want to be rationalized with or try to be convinced. But
Right.
if your heart is hardened, maybe your mind is still open to reason. So
Maybe
his whole body is now becoming more rigid.
also maybe it's for Pharaoh it's already like a matter of principle, right?
Right.
I'll fight all this against God. I'll still be determined not to let the Israelites go because.
But wouldn't it ruin Pharaoh's economy, so to speak, not having the slaves? I mean, I could see him not wanting to free the slaves because it was free labor.
Of course, I mean, the majority of, I explained that to our confirmants recently, majority of the case of anti-Semitism, I mean, basically it oftentimes in history, it starts with economic reasons, but then the government of various countries, right, from Middle Ages through modern times would feed a different story to the people, but oftentimes the reasoning is the economy. So I would agree with the editor.
Yeah, there's also power. I mean, again, Pharaoh said, let's enslave them because there are too many of them and
Right.
they'll overrun us. And that's economy and the whole structure of the system of the country.
Mm-hmm. So we'll read even Ezra and Rashi, so just one person, and then we'll go to that video.
And Pharaoh hardened. He hardened his heart like he did with the frogs. It is written there, and his heart hardened. And in Rashi, what's more, though he said, I will send you out, he did not keep his promise.
Right. So see, even Ezra supports what I said. And Pharaoh hardened and not, he hardened his heart like he did. I mean, his heart hardened, of course, but it's a different expression here. So you will be able to read the rest on your own. Like I said, there's a lot of interesting material in there. So the video that I'll show you actually has to do with the Israelites already being on the other side, and it's very appropriate again for Passover. So let's wait. Hold on. I need to disconnect my iPads now because you're not gonna hear. One sec. Can I do that? Wait.
Go back to the screen share, right? Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Can we hear now?
Play it. It's not playing yet.
Can you hear?
Yes.
Yeah.
את הרכב לכל חיל פרעה הבאים אחריהם בים. לא נשאר בהם עד אחד.
תותח, מה אמרתי לכם שאחי יסדר אותנו, לא ככה? משה! 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 אלוהים! 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 בדיוק, הוא ולא אחר, בדיוק כמו שהבטחתי לכם,
הוציא אתכם מארץ מצרים, העביר אתכם את הים, ועכשיו...
הפתעות לכולם!
לא, עכשיו לארץ המובטחת!
היי, איפה הארנק שלי? מישהו ראה פה את הארנק שלי? שיט, כנראה נפל לי ארנק כשחצינו את הים בחרבה. זה שטויות, מה הבעיה? דבר עם משה פה, יפתח את הים, תביא את הארנק, פתח לו את הים.
לא, אנחנו לא מתעסקים עכשיו עם שום ארנק, אין לנו זמן, אנחנו הולכים לארץ כנען.
אני לא זז בלי הארנק הזה.
עזוב את הארנק עכשיו, בואו אחריי. רגע, מה הבעיה? דבר שנייה עם אלוהים. שיפתח לו רגע את הים, שימצא לו את הארנק, זה שנייה בשבילו. לא, אני ממש לא הולך לבקש עכשיו מאלוהים שימצא לו את הארנק.
מה הוא אמר?
שאלוהים לא יכול למצוא לו את הארנק. לא, זה לא מה שאמרתי. לא אמרתי שאלוהים לא יכול. זה כי הוא לא מתעסק בדברים קטנים כאלה.
מה דברים קטנים? כל החיים שלי בארנק הזה. היומן שלי שם. איך אני אדע מה התוכניות שלי למחר?
לצעוד לארץ כנען. זה לא מה שאנחנו אמורים לעשות היום? זה רחוק, זה לוקח יותר מיום אחד.
באמת? אז תגיד לאלוהים שיעשה איזה פוף קטן ויקפיץ אותנו לכנען.
ובדרך שלי את הארנק שיפתח שנייה.
לא, זה לא עובד ככה, ציפי.
מה הוא אמר?
שאין אלוהים.
זה לא מה שאמרתי, ברור שיש אלוהים. הוא עכשיו פתח בשבילכם את הים. בטח יש לזה איזה הסבר מדעי.
רגע, למה הוא לא התייעץ איתנו לפני זה מה אנחנו מעדיפים?
נכון מאוד. תקשיבו, בואו נעשה הצבעה. מי שרוצה שאלוהים יקפיץ אותנו לכנען, שיגיד אני.
אהרון, לא. אנחנו עכשיו לא עושים שום הצבעה.
משה צודק, הצבעה זה רעיון מטופש. בואו נשלוף קשים!
לא, שום קשים ושום הצבעה.
אז איך אלוהים ידע מה אנחנו רוצים?
נכון? זה לא מעניין אותו מה אתם רוצים. זה אלוהים, זה הכל פה חלק מהתוכנית הגדולה.
מה התוכנית הגדולה?
זהו, שהוא לא בדיוק מעדכן אותי. נכון, זה היה יכול להיות הרבה יותר נחמד אם הוא היה מעדכן אותי קצת, אבל לא, הוא לא אומר לי למה, כי הוא אלוהים, אולי זה מצחיק אותו. רגע, אז אני לא מבין למה אנחנו הולכים אחריך בכלל.
נכון, חבר'ה, בואו. אני רוצה להזכיר לכם שהאיש הזה הפך מקל לנחש. בסדר, רוצים להגיע מהר לארץ כנען. אתם חושבים שזה בעיה בשבילו? אם הוא רוצה, הבן אדם בשנייה מעמיד לכם פה כרכרות זהב, לוקחים אתכם עד לארץ. תראה להם, משה.
אני לא יכול לעשות את זה.
אוקיי. יש לנו פה בעיה, לא נעים, אני מצטער, מסתבר שיש פה אי-הבנה. אני לא רוצה להשתמש במילים חריפות יותר כמו הונאה, אבל מסתבר שאח שלי משה לא יכול לקיים את ההבטחה שלו. נו, מה תעשו? תהרגו אותו בגלל זה? נו, שכל אחד יעשה מה שהוא מבין.
מה אתה עושה? לא, אנחנו נהרוג אותו, בטח! מה זה? למה?
תראו, מצאתי את הארנק!
איך זה?
איך הגיע פתאום? אלוהים מצא לך את הארנק! אלוהים!
All right.
Beat me up.
What do you think? Those Jews, right?
Yeah.
So, Hag Sameach, happy Passover.
Thank you.
Yes.
Sweet Passover to everybody.
Sweet, healthy one for everybody.
Yes.
Be well.
Yeah.
Be well, too.
And next year in Jerusalem.
Sounds good. Bye-bye.